And the statistics say when it comes to the lottery, nobody in here is going to win. One in how many, depending on what the jackpot is or what you're trying to get out of it. And unfortunately, the other part of that is, with the money that you have, what are you doing with it? You're going to have to learn some stuff if you're trying to survive out here. It's not getting any cheaper. It costs money. And I don't want you necessarily to obsess about money, but I want you to think about the options that it provides. You're going to have to make some decisions. Do I want a family or not? Because they add to cost. So again, I ask, what do you want your quality of life to be? What do I mean when I say, what do I want your quality of life to be? Somebody take a guess. What do I mean? That's not a rhetorical question. I'm literally asking.
A purpose.
A purpose? What else? What am I really looking for? Good, decent guess, though. Y'all about to graduate. You should know what this is. The quality of life. How do you want to live life? To the fullest? So it's going to take a lot. Please don't get it twisted. Not everybody can be a YouTube social media success. If that's what you're really passionate about, go for it. But understand there's a chance you may fail. And that doesn't mean quit. It may just mean you didn't get it right the first time. Again, it goes back to consistency. How do you show up? What are you going to do with the time you've been given? I'm not expecting everybody to get straight A's. But what I do expect is you can earn enough or a high enough grade in all your classes that you're able to get your high school diploma. And then from there, the world is your oyster. But I want you to understand that inaction is a choice. You can choose to do nothing. You can choose to believe that there's a ceiling above your head and I can't get any higher than this. I can't go to college, man. I can't do it. You haven't even tried. You've already given up. The one thing about college you got to understand is it's on you. You got to wake up in the morning and go to class. It gets even tougher than it was for high school. You are on your own, especially if you go out of state. The responsibility is on you. You have too much freedom. What are you going to do with that freedom? And quite frankly, college is too expensive to waste that time and money.
It really is.
You have choices. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. The question is, how much or what advantage in those choices will you give yourself? What are you going to do with the time you have? What are you going to do after high school? If you manage to graduate, congratulations. I commend you.
What does that mean?
What?
Recommend or whatever you said.
I commend you. It means I give you a compliment. I bow. I tip my hat to you. You made it. But that's not it. That doesn't have to be the end. But again, it's on you. You're going to have to do the research. You're going to have to do the follow through. You have to submit the application. If you're interested in a field that you don't know about, you can do something called an informational interview. You call up a company that is in the field that you're interested in, and you can go and talk to them. What does it take to get in the door here? This has always really, really interested me, but I don't know how to get in here. How do I get through the door? Has anybody ever done an informational interview in here?
No.
One person. Was it hard? It was hard? What was it for? Software engineer? Oh yeah, you went super tech. That's because that's competitive. That field is very competitive. It's flooded with people. So how do you stand out? And quite frankly, maybe that wasn't the company for him. But the point being is you're taking steps to try and find out exactly what am I trying to get myself into. Am I really passionate about this? You guys have got to understand, if you don't invest in yourself, nobody else is going to do it for you. Your teachers here, I'm sure, try to say, hey, come on, I know you can do it. Oh, man, you got to get out of your own way. You can't give up before you even try. That's one of the worst kinds of defeat. You're done before you get started. My hope is today that I kind of give you a sobering reality, not to discourage you, but to help you get focused. If you weren't focused before, I'm hoping you zero in now. It doesn't get easier. Some people make it look easy, but it's really not. Some things may come natural to you, and that's okay. If you're passionate about it, go for it. The key is that you just try. You try to do something. My nephew researched, and he found out there aren't any welders. There's like a drought in welders. In welding, they make good money. Electricians, they make good money. You do have to get a certification in either of those programs. It's going to take a little bit of work. But again, it's about how you show up. Are you being consistent? Do you want to be a software engineer? Do you want to be a civil engineer? Depending on what you're wanting to get into, you may need to have a degree to even get in the door. It's almost like a criteria that has to be met in order for you to get through the door. And then you have to start all over. I'm in the door now, but now I got to work my way up. You got to stay hungry. You got to stay motivated. And most times, not everybody's going to push for you. You have to push yourself. You've got to figure out what's motivating you. Is it just money? Or is it something that you're passionate about? The money will come. And quite frankly, if you play your cards right, if you're smart enough and get into finances, you can work at McDonald's and become a millionaire. You just have to take the time, work a strict budget, and then invest. And that money will blossom because of compound interest. But you have to be disciplined and you have to be consistent in order to make that happen. A few years back, my niece graduated from the University of Southern California. In one of the graduation ceremonies, there was a woman that stood up and spoke. She was a keynote speaker for that graduation. She didn't have her high school diploma. She had a GED, general education degree. So she messed up in high school, stumbled, was able to get her GED, and then at that time, she was getting ready to complete her doctorate in accounting. So you may stumble, you may fall, but again, it's about not giving up. You have opportunities that are out there, but they're not going to be given to you. You may get some help along the way, maybe, but I know for me, I only help people that want to help themselves. And I'm not saying selfishly they're trying to help themselves, but they're putting in the work. They're trying to prove that they're worth the time, they're worth the opportunity. When I'm interviewing people, that's what I'm looking for. Are you hungry? Are you going to be consistent? Are you going to do what I tell you to do? And I'm not walking around ordering people. I have conversations with people, with my teammates, trying to encourage them and develop them. But if they choose not to take that encouragement, if they choose not to take that coaching, that's on them. It's about your inner dialogue. It's about what you're passionate about. It's what your motivation is. What am I going to do? How am I going to do it? When it comes to resumes on your job, do you have 5,000 jobs on your resume? Or do you show consistency? I worked this job for a year. When I'm in the interview, I'm saying, if I'm that applicant, I worked this job for a year, I'm staying there until I find something else. This job has been good to me, but I feel like I need to move on and try something different. Or are you quitting every 3 months? If I look at a resume for somebody who quit every 3 months, what am I thinking? They're not consistent. If I hire you, you're just going to quit in 3 months. What we've got to do is get this image out of our heads that we got to be flashy, we got to have all this money, we got to be balling. And you got to get down to the brass tacks of what your reality is. Eventually, you can get there. You're 18. I've seen a couple of financial plans where by the time you're 28, 30, you could have $1 million. But only if you take the time to navigate that and be consistent. If I'm always spending money, there's always outgoing money that I worked hard for, and I don't save it, I can't invest it. I can't invest in myself. There are terms you may already know. Appreciative assets, depreciative assets. What's an example of an appreciative asset? Uh-oh. Appreciative asset is an asset, something that you own that gains value over time. A depreciative asset is something that you own that loses value over time. People want to drive nice cars. Depending on the car, it is a depreciative asset overall. As soon as you buy a car on a lot and you drive it off the lot, it drops 20% in value automatically. You cannot turn around, drive it back on the lot and say, hey, I'm returning this car, I want my money back. That's not always going to be the case, that you can get your money back. An appreciative asset is a house, ownership. As long as you keep up the house, you have value in the house. As long as you're working on the house trying to improve it, it will gain value. You have to put yourself in a position where you save money. If you're renting an apartment after you get out of high school, great, that's fine, independence. But your goal should not be to stay in an apartment unless that's part of your plan. I also have another cousin who owns a bunch of properties, but she lives in an apartment. Why does she live in an apartment? She doesn't want the responsibility of a house, and she owns other properties that are paying her well from rent. And those assets are appreciated. She likes to travel, so she doesn't want to have to deal with a house. That is part of her plan. But she has taken the time to figure out what does she want to do. She's been consistent, and it continues to acquire properties. You've got to come up with a plan. You've got to come up with a strategy. You've got to try things out. Don't be crippled by fear. Try something. If that fails, try something else. And learn from your failures. That's one of the best things you can do for yourself. Don't give up. You have more value. But it's all about, do you value yourself and how do you value yourself? There's more than one way to make money. But it's about putting yourself in a position to make the type of money that will give you a decent lifestyle. I say security manager. Some people will say, oh, they're rent-a-cops. Well, I own 2 cars. One is a 2020, one is a 2023. I worked hard to get that money in order to have those vehicles. I have a house. I had a rental property. I just sold my rental property. That was part of my strategy. I didn't want to be a landlord anymore. I may invest in something else. This is not about bragging. Don't get it twisted. I'm trying to help you understand there's more than one way to make money. You can't just rely on a job. You're going to have to make that lazy money work so So you may have to look at investing. There's more than one way to do it. But if you're not really looking for how to do it, you're missing out on opportunities. You're shortchanging yourself, literally. I'll end with this. The same thing I started with. What do you want your quality of life to be? Get hungry. Go get it. It's out there for the taking, but only if you get up and go get it. It's on you. I hope my words today have resonated and give you something to think about. I want you to be encouraged, not discouraged. It's going to get a little harder, but don't give up. Again, that's one of the worst things you can do for yourself. Think of it as a game. You just have to figure out how to get to the end. What am I going to do? What do I want my quality of life to be? My name is Jonathan Jones, security manager at Seattle Children's. Maybe I'll see one of you in my office one day. But remember, consistency. Thank you.
So, you got a good word today. So just so you know, a couple things real quick before we get to what's happening the rest of the day. And I'm glad, Jonathan's here, and I'm glad our principal's here as well too, because I want to make sure that this is being said as well. When you guys get to a point of your senior checkout, which is the big day you guys go through all the little information that you guys do to make sure you get your paper signed off, I always remind students, the last person that you will see in that line is the principal. And he's going to look you in the face and smile at you, stuff like that, as he looks at all the signatures on your page, stuff like that. And he will ask you one singular question he's going to ask you. He's going to ask you, what is your plan after high school? So, for those who like to just say the I don't know question, or those who say, or make up some whimsical answer because you think that we're just going to get it signed and paperwork signed, I'm here to tell you that's not going to be the case this year. I know in years past, we've just signed off these documents. Kids who say, "Oh, I'm doing this. I'm going to University of Washington," and they sign no intent to go there at all. And then those same kids get signed off to go. This is different this year. We're intentional about it. Your principal's intentional about it. We're intentional about it. You just heard somebody else talk about today about choices. So when you get asked the question, if he does not hear a clear-cut statement, it won't get signed. And he's the last person signing the document, which means that, what's that mean? He stamps the approval for you to walk at graduation. So we're not doing this for you just sit there. We're not doing all this informational stuff for y'all as just the fun and games. It's life. And it is hard. Yes, it's hard. But we're not going to just pass you along and just let you go society out there and do whatever. He's intentional about what he means by that. He's the last person you're going to see. So if you've been talking trash and smiling, walking past him, he's the last person y'all going to see. I'm just being honest. You have to go sit at the last desk you're going to see is Mr. Simone. And you can do all the smiling in your face, and he'll ask you one question. What's your plan after you leave high school? And he'll know. He'll see right through. He'll see right through if you're lying to him. He'll know. But what's your plan going to be? This is what it comes down to for this today, what you guys are doing today. What is your plan going to be? Because you may have fooled everybody else around here, but you can't fool us about what your plan is going to be. And it is determined if you're going to be walking down that aisle of graduation, which families will come fly in to see, and it'll be unfortunate that you're not going to be able to walk. No matter what begging you do, if you don't have a plan, how can we just, we want to send you guys off. Just like as all three of us are parents, we raise our kids to be successful. We want them to be successful in what they do. And you are like our kids. We want to see you be successful. We don't want to make sure you guys just be out there like, we ain't going to see you into the world not prepared. Would that be doing the disservice? And he's not going to send you out there the same way. So, I'm just telling you, as he's sitting here and there, because I want to make sure the last person you're going to see is him. And he will look at you. One question he's going to ask you. and you have until June 9th to decide that, until June 9th, whatever checkout day is, to answer that question. So for today, take advantage of the opportunity today. So, after you guys leave out of here, we're all going to go to the library. You all are going to have to check with me and Mr. Mullen to see about where you're at with your high school and beyond plan, which is a graduation requirement. Again, another thing that he'll look at as well too, Mr. Mullen's looking at. Mr. Mullen's not going to sign off for your document if your high school and beyond plan is not done. Which means that resume's done, graduation survey, fall survey's done. We're down to the last 30 days, y'all. So it's like we only gonna tell you so much. And he'll check in right there. If you got your stuff done, good. You can go off to the Future Center if you got your cap to design your cap and gown, and to check in about taking photos in the photo booth out there for a school you're going to. You're good to go. And if you are deciding to want to do a job and you want to get a job on the spot type deal, come back to the MPS. You're good to go on that. If you've not done those things, the library is going to be open from 9 to 11, which we're in there to get those things done. So there'll be no excuse to say I didn't have time. So we have time today then. So we're all going to leave out of here to head to the library first to check in to see where we're all at with the High School Beyond plan, and also with Washington State history and stuff like that to see where everybody's at, to see if you're able to graduate with enough credits and stuff like that. That's the first thing. If many of you guys are already there already, you can go off to other workshops. You can go off to the Future Center and stuff like that, hang out, and do your cap and gown design or whatever the case may be, or come here if you want to. If you're looking for a job, we have a job presentation here from 9:15 to about 10 to 11 o'clock, stuff like that. But this is designed for you today to get the stuff done today. So there'll be no excuses after that. You understand? Yes. You got that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, take your stuff, head to the library right now.